Alright, so the winter 2024 season for anime has basically almost been over. I think there's about a week for a couple of them. I am a bit behind on a couple of shows. I think I'm like 4 episodes behind on Delicious Dungeon at the time of making this video. And I think an episode on Witch and the Beast. But I figured I'd still make this top 10 video because I don't really feel like waiting a whole week for every single thing to end. And I don't really suspect that things could change on a big scale. Maybe Delicious Dungeon, I could see like me catching up and then potentially somebody getting on this list. But who knows, we'll see. Because I just want to get this video done because I am working on another video which I'll be talking about a little bit in this video because there are some characters here that aren't part of that video, which, if you know, you know. Anyways though, if you're new to the channel, basically what we do here is we go through the top 10 characters of the season. And we also do have the honorable mentions, which is basically, the 5. So I guess you could say top 15, but I just call it top 10 because it's easier. And the rule here I usually do is that for the character to be included in this list, they have to have an impact on this season if they're a sequel. So for example, if a character, is in the season, but they have not given me the impact to, like them more or enjoy them because of that season, then I'm not going to count them. So for example, I'll just throw it out there. I'm not really a fan of Clash of Elite Season 3. Ayano Koji would be technically on this list, but because I don't really care much about that season, I'm not actually going to include him here. I'm not really a light novel reader, but I think a lot of things kind of feel fast-paced and all over the place. I have read a bit of it, but, we'll keep that for another time. We're not here to talk about Clash of Elite in depth. But yeah, that's basically how we'll go about it. And yeah, if you've been around, you'll probably know how this goes. So we'll start with number, we'll start with the honorable mentions, 15, but it is actually going to be Freyren. Now, the video I was talking about is actually going to be on Freyren, but not Freyren herself, but Himmel, because I think Himmel is honestly one of my favorite characters of all time after catching up to the show. I didn't actually watch Freyren seasonally or weekly, as a lot of people would, because I kind of just didn't watch it. It was they dropped the 5 episodes and I didn't really have time, and it just kind of stacked up, and I decided to catch up, and it's become one of my favorite shows of all time. Freyren as a character I really enjoy, especially her growth when you kind of relate it to Himmel and as well as Sign, or however you want to pronounce it. And there's just a lot of interesting things about her. For example, the concept of regret, and then how she manages to learn how to enjoy life to the fullest and stop wandering aimlessly throughout life. I want to leave a lot of that topic around for the video that I'll focus on. But that is basically the gist of it. She's also really fun to watch, and I really like her interactions with, Fern and Stark, and it's just generally a very good, character to watch and kind of be good. And yeah, that's basically about it. I do think that this list will be top heavy. I'm pretty sure there's only a standout, which we'll get into once we get there. It's quite a standout here. But next up will actually be Fuka from Tomozaki. I did actually drop a video on Tomozaki, I think last week or a week and a half. If you haven't seen it and you're interested, you can keep a watch. It was on Minami, and yeah, I have talked about what I talked about there. I'm not really gonna go into that. Fuka I actually really like from the last few episodes of this season here. She has quite an interesting characterization here, and in conjunction to make a parallel with Hinami, which I do honestly want to make a video on at some point. And it's really interesting how she has this idea of, wanting to be to a certain ideal and prioritizing that over her own emotions, as we see with the play, where she puts that ending where, I get confused on the names in that play, but Libra and it's not Chris, but the other, like the other character in her story, where basically it was kind of implied where she would want Tomozaki, who's playing, kind of representing Libra, and then he ends up with Hinami, who represents the other, girl. And, she also just ends up, Chris being Fuka doesn't end up being with Tomozaki, even though she likes him. And honestly, it's really interesting because in a way where you see in that play, Hinami also kind of, you get that idea where despite her having everything and being so adept at everything, it's kind of like she has nothing, because it's kind of like she has everything, but that everything just kind of means that there's nothing really to go after. And I think it adds a pretty interesting dynamic with Fuka despite them not really interacting. I don't want to go too much in tangent here, but yeah, that's kind of like the idea I want to go. I think once I make the video on it, or if I do with Hinami, it'd probably make more sense. Because when I do these videos, they're usually unscripted and me just rambling. But yeah, Fuka has been really interesting, and I do really like her development in the final parts of the season. Although that the next character we'll talk about right here is another Tomozaki character, which is going to be Tama from, the same show. I do think her first arc is really strong. A lot of people weren't a fan of it. I guess I can see why, because it was, I guess, like it was kind of dragged on at some points because it was the same arc for basically half of the show. But honestly, I think it was one of the strongest arcs in the story because it does establish a lot of things. For example, Hinami's, the fact that she actually does something for once instead of, making Tomozaki do it, because she actually, comes in and basically destroys Erika's whole flow. And you also see the Tomozaki's growth and him being kind of a mentor figure to Tama's change, and how her whole, her blunt honestness, or whatever you want to call it, gets challenged here, because while it's not really wrong for her to be that way, she does also want to change because it's worrying Minami. And it is honestly really interesting to see, because there's another dynamic again, because Hinami, it all goes back to Hinami. I think that's like one of my favorite parts of Tomozaki, which is Hinami herself, and how basically every character in a way kind of ties back to Hinami as a little parallel, and gives you more of an idea of maybe where the story wants to go, and adds a bit more depth and kind of like emphasizing certain parts of Hinami. So for example, with Tama, to me I see that Hinami probably, respects Tama and cares for her, as opposed to maybe the other characters where she's kind of distant, is because Tama might be a person that Hinami wants to be like, where she's blunt, honest, and she doesn't really go with bullshit. Where Hinami is at putting on this fake act, mask over mask, and never really showing her honest self. Of course, I could be wrong, and I haven't really read the light novels, but that's basically the interpretation I get. But I do think there is one complaint I have with her character, and I think it's probably an adaptation thing. I'm not sure. Maybe if there's a light novel reader that could correct me, I'm not sure, but the whole thing with Shuji, there is this one whole aspect in that arc where she is not a fan of, I don't know why I'm blanking out, but Mizusawa, yeah. She's not a fan of Mizusawa because she says that he talked behind her back, and that she and Shuji are in bad terms, and that Shuji forgives her. I'm not really sure what they're talking about, because I did rewatch the season to make the Minami video, and none of that really happens, and neither does it happen in season 2. So unless it's something off screen or cut content, that part doesn't really make sense at all. And it's really weird. Like, I don't understand where that's from and why they're bringing that up, because we never see them interact at all, ever. And so there's probably some cut content there, and I think that's just kind of I don't really understand it. But regardless, she is still a very interesting character. Alright, so now we'll go to the next one. It's actually going to be Yumiella from Level 99 Villainous. We've gotten a lot of Villainous shows lately, ever since, I don't know at one point specifically, but I've been watching them a lot lately, and they're pretty fun, because some could be hit, some could be miss. Baccarin is great. I forget the one, but the one that was I don't remember the fucking title or anything like that. But there's a few that aren't really the greatest, but this one I think is pretty fun. The plot could be a bit meh, and there's kind of the ending, it's not really the greatest to me. But Yumiella is really fun to watch, honestly. She is like Baccarin, or Katarina, if you know her from her own Villainous show. But she's kind of more unhinged, or she's just kind of doing just all this crazy shit. She's dense as fuck. She doesn't really realize that Patrick is in love with her, and she's just gonna do all this crazy shit because she can. And honestly, it's just fun to watch. I don't really think there's much for me to talk about with her. She's not really some complex in-depth character, but sometimes, like I always say, doesn't really mean that you can't be a good character. There's some characters where their simplicity and just entertainment value could just be considered better than a character maybe could be deemed as complex or whatever, or a character that has more discussion. And that's just the beauty of it to me. Anyways, though, up next, see, this is going to be a standout compared to the others, but I do actually have Kiwi from the Gushing or Magical Girls. This show is unhinged beyond belief. Compared to the manga, I'm not really a manga reader of this, but I do know somebody that is. This is, the anime goes way too much on this one. It's it goes on a crazy degree with, it doesn't censor shit. And hey, it's absurd to the point where it's actually just funny to watch. And Kiwi just doesn't give a fuck. She's just hilarious with just all her fucking moments with fucking Utena and all this shit. And she's just entertaining as hell. In the recent fight she has with Sister Gigant, and just all this shit in the beginning as well. It's just you can't make this shit up. With this show, you just can't fucking make this shit up. And honestly, at the beginning I wasn't really big on it. kind of the fan service can get a bit too out of hand, where it's just kind of not really that, just don't care much really. But as the show went on, the story and kind of like the interaction between the characters kind of gets more interesting, and I do really like her dynamic with Utena. It's just unhinged beyond belief, and it's fucking great. But yeah, not really much for me to talk about on her that much, but now we'll start getting on the top 10. So number 10 here, we actually gonna have, if I can find him, where did I actually not have him here? Okay, here he is. It's gonna be Sign from Freyren. So I like Sign a lot because Sign is this foil, or I guess parallel. I always feel confused with the words, but basically he's a similarity to Freyren in the sense of he is in the same situation where he has regrets like Freyren, where he doesn't do a certain thing because he writes it off with excuses where it's too late. I have a lot on this topic on my video, which I'll probably be releasing after this one. I'm not sure when exactly, we'll see. But the idea of Freyren being what Himmel was to her, to Sign, and just giving him that push to become a hero and embark on the journey that he always wanted to, and also find his friend. And just not live on these excuses of it's too late, and just because he's at a certain age he can't anymore, because the idea of just like Himmel's influence on both of these characters and just the overall, one of the main themes of the story is just like living in the present, which is what Himmel like just basically lives by. That's his philosophy. And so the idea that Freyren passes that on to Sign and just also manages to make him, embark on that journey, I just think it's great. And Sign in general is just a great guy. You can see his kind of, I guess, I'm not sure like the adult like interaction he has, like as a mature interaction he has with Stark and Fern. I'm not sure if I want to say like a father-like role. It's not really like that, but the interaction he has with Stark and Fern, how he always has to fix their drama with each other. It's really entertaining. You just gotta love Sign. I don't think there's like really much else to say other than he's just awesome. And who knows, he might finally find his old woman that he just wanted to be with on the journey. And judging by the ending of that finale, maybe he did. So I'm interested to see if we end up ever seeing him again. I probably will read the manga, unless we get a season 2. We'll see. But that will end Sign's role here. Next up will be Anna from Dangers in My Heart. I have talked a lot about her in my video like a few months ago. So if you've watched that video, you probably already have known what I have to say about her. She's fantastic. I do have this series really high rated. Anna isn't like on my favorites of all time, but she is generally a great character. There's a lot to love about her, just her relationship with Ichikawa and just how it really works. Like I think the beauty of the series and why I love it so much is just how it manages to develop these two's relationship to such a great degree. I'm not gonna get to manga spoilers because there's obviously a lot I can go into, but just of how it goes from the start, from episode 1, and you just see them slowly grow. You're watching every single bit of the way. There's no like cut content, there's no rushing it. They don't end up having them date, even though we obviously know that both of them are in love with each other. But we need to have certain things develop before they end up becoming a couple. For example, Ichikawa's struggles and him realizing what it really means to love somebody, and just honest insecurities and certain things, such as the scene with the hot pot scene, just how she kind of worries about being hated and abandoned because of how she's a burden to other people. There's really a lot that goes on with these two's relationship, and I think it might honestly be like one of, if not my favorite romantic duo. It kind of depends, I might prefer Subaru and Emilia from ReZeros, especially after season 2 there. But yeah, that is going to be my ranking on Anna. She's just generally amazing, and I cannot wait for the finale of this. I can't really say anything here because I'm going to upload this before the episode comes out. But I'm generally cannot wait. And this adaptation they've been doing of this, they've been cooking crazy. Like, it's genuinely insane. I actually am kind of upset that I read the manga because I'm not experiencing this as an anime only. Okay, next up will be Ubel from Freyren as well. I did say that this is going to be very top heavy. A lot of people love her, for reasons very obvious, but she is very fun to watch. She is this like unhinged, unhinged fucking character that I'm not sure if I want to say like she is basically fucked. She has an interesting ability that's really fucking broken with how she just can if she could just visualize cutting something, she just can do it. Which is like basically ignorance is the most powerful thing for her. If she doesn't really comprehend your ability, then you're probably fucked. At least that's how I'm interpreting it. So I guess the best way to counter her is to explain and make her visualize their ability so that she can't visualize cutting. And if, you know, for that cloak, for example, if you have that, you'd have to like explain to her how it works so that she can't visualize cutting that. But maybe her delusions would like make her still be convinced that she can. I don't have a lot to say about her like in general, but she's just generally fun to watch. I mean, just look at how she's like and how her interactions are with land, and just kind of how she goes by with her own flow and her own decisions, really. Like, she's kind of having her own story. I'm interested to see where it goes. Probably gonna happen in season 2, if anything. I mean, there's no way they're not gonna like do much with her. I mean, she's fucking popular as shit. I'm pretty sure the anime has made her crazy popular. She's probably more popular. I'm not gonna say like in general in the series, but maybe in the terms of the anime landscape, she's probably more popular than Freyren herself right now. But it's probably gonna dwindle down after a while because she's not gonna. I don't think she's gonna show up as often, but I bet there's gonna be an arc with her in land. Because I do not think that they're just not gonna like do anything with her and land, anything like that. But yeah, enough about Opal. Next up will be another Dangers in My Heart character. It's going to be, if I can find her here, probably being blind. Okay, Sekine. Again, I also did explain her character. I like her a lot. I do actually like her more than Anna. She's fun to watch. She's this wing woman for fucking Ichikawa and Anna. I think she has her own character arc, but I can't really go into this because it's a manga thing, so I can't really explain it, but she's just really fun to watch. She's this like wing woman, and she's kind of just not really much for me to say. Fun to watch character that's simple, and she's fucking great. Like, not really much I can tell you. But yeah, that will conclude Sekine's spot. And next up will be Utena herself. So what I said already on Kiwi's part basically applies to Utena. She is just the fucking villain. Like, it's so like absurdly interesting to see that she just switches from this like shy, meek, and scared character to just this like unhinged, obsessive, like magical girl fanatic, and she just like tears through things apart. Like, I cannot explain certain things because obviously, like, if you watch the series, I can't really go into the in depth with that. But like, Utena is just insane, and she's fucking entertaining at it. Like, she has like no limits, and I mean, right now, as you see, she literally is just basically leading the fucking force now, or the Enrabita, whatever it is. And she doesn't give a shit. All she cares about is just seeing her favorite magical girls, just being magical girls. But yeah, that's gonna conclude Utena's spot. Next up will be Tomazaki. Tomazaki has always been one of my favorite protagonists from season 1, and season 2 does elevate that for me, especially the first arc. As we see that in the second season, we get more insight to him and how he's like a mentor to Tama and other characters, and just generally seeing his growth develop from there. I did a bit in depth about it, I think, in the Minami video, but not really much because there's not really a lot for me to honestly go into at the time, because I made that video before the whole romantic elements came out for Minami, and I didn't really like end up putting it in the video because I didn't really feel like it was like relevant to the topic at hand, which was the whole idea of the runner-up and other parts of her character. But I mean, I could make a sequel at one point, but I don't really think I plan to. But yeah, like, Tomazaki role is great. Probably when I make the video on Hinami, he will get a much more in-depth look at him, because I think there's a much more interesting dynamic between him and Hinami as opposed to him and Nanami or Minami. But yeah, Tomazaki is very good. And now we'll go to the real goat of this season for me, Himmel. Honestly, like, watching like Freyren, I was shocked to see how good Himmel is as a character. He just encompasses the themes and the message of Freyren as a whole like so perfectly. And he's literally the reason why I'm making a video on Freyren, because it's just like there's so much to go with him and just how he influences the story as a whole, and not just Freyren. And it's just the beauty of Himmel's character and Freyren's character are kind of intertwined, where I don't think you can talk about Himmel's character without going into Freyren's, because Himmel's flashbacks and what you see, despite him like barely having screen time in terms of the present timeline, it really just, you can see just how much he influences him, like Freyren, and how in a way, despite him at the start, we can see that he's not this like chosen one or this like hero. He carves his way to an identity to the top where he really is the hero. And in a way, I love the idea that we have this story centered around this elf who's basically immortal, that loses like people she cares for because they're all, they have limited lifespans. Humans don't really live as long compared to elves and dwarves and all these other characters. But in a way, despite that, all these characters have died, Himmel in a way is immortal because people remember him to this day and they celebrate him. You see all these different towns and cities, villages, they make these celebrations over the heroes of the century, the ones that saved them from Demon Lord. And Himmel just carved his way up there with not even the chosen sword. He wasn't able to pull that sword. And you see that he taught her and showed her just the meaning of living in the moment and caring for, even the children, where, she realizes, and we see that in Fern and her relationship with her, that she tries to understand her, she tries to be more affectionate and, show emotion towards her, even at the end where she compliments and, she praises her for being a first-class mage now. Like, that is big because, Fern or Freeman never really knew much about that, and it's because of Himmel's interactions and influence that made her be this way and change. And now she's enjoying things as much more than what she used to be. And it doesn't really end with Freyren. I mean, even Heiter has changed, and he takes Fern as a disciple because it's what Himmel would do. And not to mention, we see even Werbel has been influenced by Himmel's stories, even if, they're not that interesting, but to him, those small interesting moments are what make Himmel a hero. But yeah, I don't want to go too off a tangent. If you want to see all that, just wait for the video when I make it. Overall, Himmel, honestly, me talking about it, just making me consider even having him higher. Because I think he's just a genius character, and the way he's written is just so interesting to me. But yeah, I think next up would be Minami. And now I'm honestly considering that Himmel could probably be above Minami. We'll see, at the end we'll review. I am considering that. But yeah, Minami, I made a video on her. You can see that. I've already mentioned this a couple of times since the video. But honestly, Minami is absolutely great. She is not a complex, I don't want to say she's simple, but she isn't someone that is complicated to understand. Her goals and motivations are out there. She doesn't really hide herself. She doesn't put on a mask like Hinami, and she's just easy to love. She can befriend anybody easily. She's extroverted, and she lives through life with a smile on her face, or at least she plans to. And you just see that she is just genuine about a lot of things. She doesn't really try to go in different directions to try to deceive certain things or deceive people. She just, wants to be number one in the best way she can, and just wants to shine and become somebody special. And, we can just also talk about how that, kind of complements with Hinami's whole thing, which we'll get into in a sec. But overall, I love Minami and her arc. Her arc is just really unique to me, because even though it might not be the most original thing ever, I just love how unique it's kind of executed, if that makes sense. Where you have this character who, this is energetic, extrovert character, but in reality, she actually doesn't really know how to befriend the Tama or get her to interact with the class. And she actually has to ask Hinami for advice. Or, she doesn't actually know certain things and she fails on them. And, we see that she does a lot of mistakes and grows for them. And I really like that. It's very essential to make that type of stuff. And it adds a lot to the realism and just making her overall a better character. And she's overall just fun to watch. But yeah, that's going to be the spot for me. We'll see if I'll put her above or below Himmel. And next up, it's going to be Ichikawa. Ichikawa, honestly, is the heart and soul of things in my heart. Without his development and growth, I don't think the story would be as good, because his development and just growth has to be one of the most unique of a protagonist I've seen in a while, because the way he's developed, it's just very relatable and realistic, where you just see how he's closing himself off from others, and he's this awkward kid at the start, having these weird delusions of murder and whatnot, but he's not actually going to do it, but he has these weird Chunibyo delusions. But over time you peel off layers and you see that he's just a genuinely good kid, and he cares for others. Even at the start, where he tries to do his best to save Anna from weird situations, he's self-sacrificing in nature. He doesn't want Anna to be in a weird situation. And his relationship with Anna is obviously just the main element of the Angels of My Heart, and I think that is just perfectly handled, even way later in the manga. And the speech we get in the graduation, that's like top 3 scenes, if not like 1 for me. Like anime wise, I mean the manga has like different ones for me, but that scene really just encapsulates his character just perfectly. But again, if you want to get the in-depth thoughts, just go watch the video on that one. But that's kind of like the summarized version of what makes Ichikawa so high up for me. Is I think he's just very unique as a protagonist in the way his growth and development is like. And yeah, just overall, I love also the way that he kind of gradually befriends other characters in the story. Like, it's not just Anna and him, but he also slowly befriends others and becomes part of the class. He's not an odd kid that is just kind of like awkward and, this kind of weird edgy guy. He's befriended Sekine and Anna's friends, and it feels natural. It doesn't just suddenly happen. I mean, they do kind of, they were at that one meetup, at one, I think, store, and then Sekine starts, befriending Ichikawa, but it feels natural because even after that, you get more scenes and interactions, and you see that, like, there's stuff I can't really talk about, but there are certain things that develop their relationship even more. And overall, even the smaller stuff, like Adachi and his like rivalry with that, like the small aspects, like as I say in that video, the small moments matter a lot because those small moments just are special to him, and that's just like the way the story is made. I just think it really works. But yeah, that's going to be Ichikawa's segment, and the first number 1, you would think is Ichikawa with how much I've been talking about things in my heart, but I actually have Hinami up here. This, I actually did not have that originally, but once I rewatched the series Tomazaki for the video on Minami, it was originally gonna be a Minami. Like, Minami was my favorite character, but once I rewatched it and I started to just kind of like see, certain things on Hinami and just how her character is like and how it complements others' characters, and just like how she kind of is the antithesis to the story's theme at hand. I think she's just honestly the best character in the series and one of my favorites overall, because the whole story, as I mentioned, is kind of like based on the idea of sincerity and just kind of being genuine. And each character in the story is trying to be that. You have Mizusawa who's trying to get what he wants. He's trying to chase his desires, even though he's playing these acts, fooling around with girls that he doesn't really like have the big connection with. You have Tomazaki who's trying to make sure that he is true to his emotions, as we see at the finale of the season as he talks with Fuka. Every character has this type of thing. You have Minami, who's basically the embodiment of sincerity. And then you have Hinami, who is the complete opposite, where she is playing mask under mask. Even when you think these certain moments are genuine, they're not really. She's like playing all these acts. We don't really know what it is specifically, but there are some things where you can kind of theorize, which is why I say earlier the relationships and the kind of like similarity she has with other characters. So for example, where you see that the idea that she has everything right now, she's good at everything, she's able to deceive, able to act, able to do this. At the end of the day, like, if you have everything, there's really anything you could chase for, and that way it might kind of feel like you have nothing after all, because you do want to have a goal to chase after, and if you meet that goal, what now? And that's probably what maybe Hinami could be like. But there is a lot of things to like discuss and trying to like figure out what she's like, because there's other aspects where you could feel like she's maybe trying to escape that role. Maybe that's why she's respecting Minami. I mean, there's a lot of times where despite her principles, now she firmly believes in the idea of there is no like people's desires and what they want doesn't exist, and that you should prioritize like being your ideal self. And just like you don't really know how that has been shaped, but there are like some kind of times where she actually breaks through that, where she ends up helping Tama, and that kind of like violates how she's always been, because she has up to that point she's never really like done something like on her own. She hasn't like acted on like a certain thing. She's always been like giving advice to Tomazaki, or she's helped him in certain things, but she's never like jumped out of her way to do something. And it's only when she gets confused because Tama is in the right, she is blunt, and she calls out Erika for her actions and her bullying, but yet that has not fixed the situation, and that doesn't make sense to Hinami. It's like, how and why would she want to change if she's right? Why would Tama want to change? Because again, she's in the right. And as she realizes that even though all these kind of things that Tama is trying to change herself, that didn't work, it just kind of, she says fuck it, and she just decides to do things her own way and just kind of brutally destroy Erika. But the important thing is that if you notice again in the start of that arc, she already was planning to do this from the start. As you know, she was befriending Erika's friend and doing all that, and she was already orchestrating this. So who knows if she was already gonna do this anyway, or if she was waiting as a backup plan for if she, if Tama can't do it, she just does it for her. Because that could be something that happened. You don't know. But yeah, I don't want to go too much in that, but that's basically what I just, there's a lot for me to with Hinami, with Misasawa's relationship and her, Tomozaki's, now Fuka's. There wasn't even really like a dynamic with her and Fuka, but now there is. Like, they've barely interacted. I'm pretty sure they've only said like a few words to each other, but there's already like something I could probably talk about when it comes to Fuka and Hinami with how that final arc has happened. But yeah, so that's gonna be the top 10. Like, let's just go through it and see. So we got, like, Hinami here at the top. I think, I'm confident on that. We got Ichikawa. Confident on that too. The Minami and Hamel, I'm not sure 100%. I think for now, I think we'll go with Minami. And then Minami and then Hamel. We got Tamazaki, Utena. Utena stands out compared to all of these here. Like, Utena and Kiwi, like, because they're like completely, the way their show is, if you've watched it, Sakine, Ubel, Anna, Sign, Kiwi, Yumiela, Tama, Fuka, and Freyren. Yeah, I'm confident on that. And we can just get rid of all this. But yeah, as you can see, pretty sure all these, like, how many shows are these? It's like, so that's Tomazaki, this is Dangerous in My Heart, this is Gushing Magical Clothes, and Freyren, and the level 99. So out of the top 15, there's only 5 shows, so it's very top heavy. Like, what? 3 Tomazaki characters, 3 Dangerous in My Heart characters, 3 Freyren characters. Yeah, it is heavy loaded. Maybe I'll try to have. Maybe next time I'll try to limit maybe like 1 character per series, maybe, so I can get each character their own spotlight. We'll see. We're adapting and evolving on these like rankings. If like the earliest one was like a 1 hour tier list. I mean, this video's already at 30 minutes, but yeah. Let me know what you think. If you've enjoyed the content here, be sure to like, comment, subscribe. And if you have a favorite character of the season, let me know what they are and why. And yeah, that will be Joe, and I'll be signing off.